The stars are bright, we own the night. The stars are bright, we own. The stars are bright, we own the night. The stars are bright, we own. The
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday to another episode of No Better Time Than the Present, which is my IG Live series where I speak with patient advocates, patient leaders regarding their particular journey, or journeys. A lot of people feel that they may be go through their journey alone, not realizing that there's a bigger community who may be coping and dealing with the same issues. So it's very important that we use our voice. We know sometimes a lot of people wish not to be vocal about their situation, whatever it is. However, when they do hear stories of other people and their experiences, it does help. So it's a healthy conversation. It's a healthy way of asking questions, things that you may be unclear. It just helps to bring up a nice, healthy conversation with your doctor. I have the pleasure of speaking with Vickie Wilkerson. Vickie is a patient advocate who is outspoken in the world of psoriasis. I don't think I said it right the first time. So we're going to have a little conversation with Vickie this evening regarding her journey. She was diagnosed with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis at the age of 33. Vickie believed her symptoms were possibly poison ivy from living in Louisiana. Okay, so obviously her world was flipped upside down with this diagnosis and then finding out that it wasn't poison ivy. So a dermatologist confirmed the case. And after further inquiry, she learned her case was genetics as her paternal side. Okay. She's never heard of this condition before being diagnosed. But it did affect 80% of her body. So she was covered in plaque psoriasis. Okay. Her treatment was delayed for some years and began with her first biologic. So maybe Vickie can speak a little bit what that means.
Yay!
Perfect. That was perfect. How are you this evening?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay? Because it's been super windy here in Louisiana today.
Okay, yeah, like I hear you, but I do hear it's going in and out. So let's see how far we get with this conversation. Tell me a little bit about your journey with psoriasis and to explain what is psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. There we go.
So, to kind of go back a little bit, as you were saying, I was diagnosed at 33 with psoriasis. I never even heard the term psoriasis. Like it, I didn't even know such thing even existed. but it was genetic on my father's side. I had to find him in order to even find that out. So, my mom, who was a nurse, kept saying, "Oh, you've been misdiagnosed." But I come to find out that psoriasis is like it's an overproduction of white cells in your body. Like your white cells are for that it fights off disease and or not disease, but like if you so much as get like a scrape or something on your arm, that's the white blood cells take care of that. In my case, with the psoriasis, the white blood cells are overproducing, and it's like it is attacking my own body instead of healing what is going on in my body. Um, and I've been dealing with it now for 22 years going on.
Wow. Wow. So are you on treatment right now? And what does treatment consist of?
I am currently on treatment. I just started a new one that is fairly new to the market. Um, I've been on biologics before. Um, Currently I've been through 5. Um, and like the first one, I mean, I was so new to the game, I didn't even know, like, I just thought it was going to be my cure. I thought it was going to be the end all of it. I wouldn't have to deal with psoriasis anymore. Um, Little did I know at the time, it was not. 6 months into it, taking shots in my stomach once a month, it had cured my hands because in my, you had said like I was 80% covered, and I was at my worst. Um, it cured my hands and cleaned them up. But it didn't do anything to help the rest of my body. Like I said, which is crazy when you're taking shots in your stomach. But so I got really down and depressed about that. I'd only been married about a year at the time. I even so much just told my husband that if he wanted out of the marriage because I didn't know how bad it was all going to get, I would let him out. Um,
Mm.
Lucky for me, he's a great man. We've been married 15 years as of this past August, so I'm blessed on that part, and he's absolutely my rock. But it it's just been there's so much misinformation about psoriasis out there, and especially if you're newly diagnosed, you aren't told the things that I feel like you should be told from the beginning. So it's taken all these years to finally get involved with the National Psoriasis Foundation, and to learn the things that I've learned, so that I now know that while one treatment works for one, it doesn't necessarily work for the other, and that's why why it's been 5 different biologics since the time of starting biologics. So it's definitely been a journey.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Like we've had a good many guests on who have mentioned being on certain medications, whether it's clinical trials or whatever the situation is, and then thinking it's going to work, and then it's not, is working for a majority of the people, but those particular people, that is not really doing what they hope it would be. So when I did a little deep dive into psoriasis, because what I know of it is a skin condition, right? The seriousness of it, I don't know. I didn't think too deep. Just like, okay, it's psoriasis. It's like a scab on the skin or what have you. um, some of the myths that I've seen, when I did the deep dive, a lot of people feel, not me, but just the consensus with a lot of the people, they feel that it's a contagious situation, and they think that it's one form of psoriasis. So when I did a deep dive, which that's why this program is cool, because it can like open up the conversation of what you believe and what is the truth, what is the myth and what is the truth. So I thought that was interesting. It's not contagious, okay, and that there's more than one form of psoriasis, correct?
Correct. There are currently there are 5 forms of psoriasis. So mine is plaque, but you also have gut tape psoriasis, pustular psoriasis, which creates little pustules on your body. There is oh gosh, and I've suddenly drawn a blank, and I know all this. But there are currently 5, but the one I deal with, there's inverse because I have that too. So the inverse psoriasis is like under the folds of your skin, like in your like for a woman under the breast, in like the groin areas, situations along that line. So and the deal is most people do think it's contagious. They see it right off, or if any of your skin is like exposed, they see it and they just think, oh no, if I so much as even touch her, I'm gonna get it. I mean, like, I just to give you one story in particular, I had a lady one time tell me that she got psoriasis, or not that she got it, I got psoriasis um, from putting my elbows on a dirty table in a restaurant. And that is, I mean, like, but when people don't know, they don't know. And that's why, like, even collaborations with you are so important, because there's still so much misinformation about psoriasis that people just don't know. Um, I've had people tell me that are in like the stores, like the clerks, that were fearful of even touching my hands to get the money, because they think they would get the psoriasis from me. Um, and you can only imagine the amount of stigmatism that comes with that. Psoriasis is hard enough on its own without people, you know, thinking things that are not even true, or even
Right.
commenting, or the stares. I didn't ask to have this disease. It's not something that I even knew of, because my dad was not even in my life from the time I was 2 years old until I found him again. So it at the time I was diagnosed, I was the only one I knew with it, which made it,
Right.
you can imagine, makes it even that much harder. So it's taken a lot of time to get me to a point of being able to accept that I have this lifelong disease that, currently there's no cure for. And
Exactly.
some people's instances, um, they don't even know how the psoriasis started. So that makes it even harder to accept. And it's one of the things, because the doctors are, there's no research currently that is even um totally out there that says how it starts. Um, you know, so there's still just so much that needs to be learned about psoriasis.
It's it's interesting, what your experience, because I recall there was this young girl that I went to high school with, and she was cool. She was like real cool. And we, I don't know, it's like she was around like a group of us, right? Cool person. And it was the assumption that she was like a burn victim, but we weren't sure. So her psoriasis was like 100% her body. Her scalp, she would wear braids and all of that, but clearly something was going on. So it was just the assumption that she was like something happened, but no one dared, at least for me. I never asked, like, what happened? And she never really explained. Maybe if the question was asked, maybe she would have, give a little bit. But kids are different, especially teenagers. So it's just like, I don't know, how is this conversation gonna go? Again,
Yeah.
we are a breed of people who look on the aesthetics. So if there's something that looks off, okay, and especially for a young person, we may question to ourselves or hunch over here and just whisper, okay, well, what's going on with this person? But some don't really ask further, So, like I said, she never really expanded upon what was happening. But as I got older and just like, oh, okay, I think someone, so she may have had psoriasis or whatever, you know. Um, when
Yeah,
I
I
did
have
a
a
deep dive
friend.
to like,
Sorry.
mm-hmm. Oh,
No, but I have a friend that for years, um, I had been around her, and at the time I didn't have psoriasis. So yeah, I mean, she told me it was psoriasis. I had no clue, and, and I never asked questions about it. And then of course, as kind of friends do at a point, we drifted apart, and so for now, I'm back, friends with her and conversating with her, and able to understand like her psoriasis journey. But at the time, I didn't have it, so I didn't know the questions to ask. I didn't know, I just seen her elbows, and other than asking her, what happened, like that was the end of the discussion. So I mean,
mm-hmm.
it is. I wish people would ask more, because in them asking more, then I can tell them, and I can give them more information about it, and so that they know. But so many people, as you said, they're just, they take one look at it, and if it's like, psoriasis is not pretty. I mean, let's just be straight about it. I mean, it's not pretty. And they see it and automatically think, they're going to catch it, and not knowing, because that's the worst thing. When you don't know about something, you don't, you're going to just automatically react without even asking. Certainly, I mean, I'll go up to people if I notice, and I'll ask them right off is if it's psoriasis. Some people don't necessarily like to answer that question, but they become a little more relaxed when I say I have it, and they'll start talking to me. But I mean, I'm 22 years into the journey, and there's still so much that it's almost like a taboo word.
It's like I said, we're a group of people where if you look somewhat different, okay, people go into the assumption. And I know for my journey with multiple myeloma, that's like a invisible disease, if you will. So it's like, oh, well, you look perfectly fine, but they don't really understand the layers of what is happening. In your condition, they see something happening and they assume. We're just assuming people. Okay, we assume a lot versus asking questions or delving a little deeper. So there's like a lot of assumptions, and I know there's a little saying, okay, with assuming, okay, what that makes you by assuming. um, so tell me a little bit about psoriatic, sorry if I'm not saying it right, arthritis. Can you explain a little bit how the two relate?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, as far as the invisible part with you having the melanoma, I guess I'm saying, no, I probably butchered that, but um, you know, um, psoriatic arthritis is caused by the inflammation in your body that the psoriasis springs on. So it starts attacking your joints. And so it's like a lot of the other kind of arthritis out there that you hear, people, say, like, um, rheumatoid arthritis is a big one a lot of people know about, but you say psoriatic arthritis and they kind of, look at you crazy, not really crazy, but I mean, kind of throw a glance like, never heard that before. Um,
Mm,
so it's 10 years into my journey with psoriasis because of the inflammation, because of being so widespread with the psoriasis. It started the psoriatic arthritis. And at first, I blamed it on my job because I was a private housekeeper in a 3-story mansion, cleaning it, and so I just thought my back was hurting, because of all the bending over and lifting and climbing stairs and that thing. But it got to a point where it was, it got so painful it was debilitating. In fact, I wound up having to stop doing that job, and I absolutely loved it, but I couldn't keep doing it because my body was, it was in so much pain. um so 10 years into it, and now it's not only my back, it's my hips, it's my knees that are also being affected by it. So it tends to affect multiple joints in your body. And then not only that too, but the psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, there are conditions called comorbidities that are associated with it, so that it can start affecting like your heart,
right.
your eyes, your teeth, like so cardiovascular disease, heart disease is a big thing. And for me, that's totally scary because the fact that I already have heart disease in my family on both sides. So to know that now I'm not only dealing with psoriatic arthritis and the psoriasis, but there's a real good possibility it's going to double whatever heart disease might come down from my family's side of it. So I mean, but on a general day, it's hard for me to even so much as wash a sink of dishes, because like you're standing there
Mm,
at the sink and you're washing those dishes, and the longer I stand, my back just starts feeling like it's in a vice, I guess, and like someone's cranking on it. So it just, the pain instantly starts in, and it gets to a point where I have to stop. I have to sit down and kind of let it ease up. And and then try to proceed to finish washing those dishes, which, I mean, so many people, take for granted, but in my world, it's a big thing, you know.
Right.
Um, I have 6 grandkids, and the youngest
Mm.
one is 1 year old. So you can imagine just trying to, and her sister is 5. So you can imagine trying to even pick them up, hug on them, play with them, anything along that line. It interferes with. I just have to tell them right now, baby, I'm sorry. Nana just can't do it right now. So it affects everything. Um, and and currently, I've not been on any treatment, even with the biologics that I've been on. I've not been on any treatment that has made the psoriatic arthritis any better. I mean,
Wow.
at one point, like the one biologic took the psoriasis down to where I was 80% covered down to 20% covered. Um, which is, not great. I mean, I would love to be clear one day, but I've not been on anything currently that has helped the psoriatic arthritis in any way to make it better in a day where I'm not constantly in pain on a daily basis.
So that's a lot. What, based on the condition of not having like the 100% thing that makes this better in terms of managing it, what 2 things that you do, despite some of these cons, what are 2 things that kind of allow you to manage it somewhat better? Not 100%, but a little something. Like, what are 2 things that kind of just gives you some relief?
Well, as far as like the psoriatic arthritis, I tell people, like, you really have to listen to your body. You really have to, be in tune. And if it gets to a point that you are in so much pain, then stop. Sit down, rest for a while. Then you maybe can get back up and do some more. But if you can't, then that's okay too. You just have to learn to um live with the what is your new normal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because that's about the only way I know how to put it. It totally changes you as a person. Like, I was very active. I was very much an outdoor type person.
Okay.
And I can't, like, there's no way currently I can even walk a mile or even like half a mile because I'm in pain. Um, so, you just have to listen to your body, and you have to not push when your body is not able to. Now, don't get me wrong, there are good days. Like, let's just say 2 days ago, I had a really good day. So I was up, I was, as we tend to do when you have a good day, I was doing a whole lot of different things, like working in my house and along that line that I felt really accomplished. But the drawback to that was, like, I'd overdone it, and the next day I was hurting so much um,
Mm-hmm.
from doing it. So you really have to learn what your new normal is and learn to accept that you just can't necessarily, you know, do the things that you used to be or used to be able to do, and do it that way. I wish I could say that I've been on a treatment that has helped me and I've been able to get back to that point of being, so active again. But until that day comes, I just have to keep, you know, doing what it is for my body that works, whether it's rest, whether, um, along that line. And so as far as the psoriasis goes, um, I mean, I guess I should be grateful from a 80% covered down to 20% covered, but I know people that are get on the medication and they're clear. I've never
Wow.
once in the 20
Okay.
years of my psoriasis starting, I've never been clear 100%. So I still want to achieve to get there. I still want to find out what it is to live, you know, to one day say I'm totally clear. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'd probably strip down and run out in public somewhere. I mean, it's but when you have conditions like that everybody can see, and it just kind of goes back to the whole stigma thing. So I keep hoping, and as I told you, I'm currently on a new medication. I'm hopeful it's going to work. Um, I've only been on it 3 weeks. So
Okay.
you know, it's still in the new phase. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, like you mentioned some interesting points, but as you say, this is like the new normal. And I think a lot of people can relate. For those who have chronic conditions, we can relate to this is the new normal. Like we want things to go back to the beginning before all of this mess. Okay. But sometimes, like you said, some people in your case are cleared, and then some people may have a 20-30% improvement or what have you. So how comfortable at this state, I know you are on new medication right now, but where you are today, which is the 14th of March, how comfortable are you in your own skin? And no pun intended. Okay. How comfortable are you? And how important is your self-compassion? How important is that in your advocacy?
Yeah. So for me, since I've been doing the advocacy stuff and all, it you know honestly got so much reward out of it, because it has grown my self-confidence to the point of I'm you know like I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, so you can see. I don't know if you can. There you go. You might can see a little better on my elbow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, it was 80 degrees for us today, so I'm in shorts. Um, so for me, I'm fairly comfortable. People seeing it, because a point of it too is I kind of hope that they'll see it and ask questions, so I can. It's just a whole nother way of telling people about psoriasis. But I had to be honest too and say that if I'm in like really large crowds, and if it's not people that just have psoriasis, then there is still a little bit of me that worries, like, am I going to offend someone? Is someone going to say something from past experiences? So there is still a little bit that I deal with, but if we're afraid to show what's going on with us, then it really hinders us as a person. At least that's my feeling. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I tell anyone like who's newly diagnosed, because you may mention of the mentoring. Um, I've gotten as much out of that as I hope I give to these people that I mentor, because it's almost a cathartic thing
Right.
in that I'm able to share my journey. Um, but I make mention to them that, it does take time. It takes, as I said, I'm 22 years into my journey. It takes
Mm-hmm.
time to get you to a point of acceptance, you to where I'm fairly comfortable in my skin now. Um, but I still kind of have the nagging little thoughts in the back of my mind.
Right. It's a lot. Again, speaking from experience, even though my condition is different, it's a lot. It's a lot to be familiar with whatever your condition is. It's a lot to handle it from different optics, people looking in, what they're thinking about the situation. It's just a lot. And we all deal with it different ways. You know what I'm saying? What parting words would you tell someone who is newly diagnosed? And then I want you to circle back. What would you tell someone in your situation where some of the treatment isn't working 100%? So what parting words would you tell someone who is freshly diagnosed?
I would say for someone who's newly diagnosed that most people think their life is over. I did from the beginning when I was first diagnosed, and especially because the psoriasis spread so quickly. Your life's not over. There is a lot more life to live. There are treatments out there. Yes, you will have to find the one that works for you, but you cannot give up on searching for that treatment. And it's more a marathon, than a race.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, it, but you have to be willing to push and keep pushing for the answers. Keep pushing your doctors. Talk to them. And if they're not willing to talk to you and answer your questions, then by all means, you really need to find someone new until you find someone who will listen to you, who will treat you as much as the person as they're treating the condition.
I love it. I love it. We have a couple of points. Thank you guys for joining in, those who came and came out. um, let's see, we have a comment. Awareness is the key to understanding. That is so, so true for a whole lot of things. Okay, it really is, because I feel like if we don't have vocal advocates such as ourselves, then a lot of people just kind of, stay in their corner to think that certain feelings is normal, or, whatever their situation is, like maybe things are not handled the best way, maybe in terms of their health team,
They
like the
feel
doctor
alone.
tells me this. Yeah, you feel alone, like, oh, well, okay, this is what the doctor is saying, and he said it, I have to do whatever, and then, oh, well, wait a minute, here's this person's story, they didn't necessarily do it like that. So it's important to be vocal. And I always tell people, I know I sound like a broken record, I always tell people, even if you don't want to do a platform such as this, or speak to your congressman, okay, having that transparent conversation with your doctor is like so important. I don't know, I feel like I spew that each episode that I do of this. That's the most important. Later, for all of this other stuff, who sees me and me sharing the story, of course, those are good things to have. However, just having a simple conversation with your doctor, and I always tell people that also opens up the door if this individual is the right doctor for you. You know what I'm saying? You may have a whole lot of questions. If your medical team cannot answer those questions, they gotta go. Okay, we gotta find somebody else, you know. So
Absolutely.
I'm all over the place.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, like, it is. And one other piece of advice I'd give, if there's an organization, like in my case, the National Psoriasis Foundation, like, get involved with them. Like, I can't tell you what it was like to walk into a room full of people that had psoriasis, and be able to meet them and talk. It is just that point when you no longer feel like you're alone. You're able to give the, you know, you're able to grow. You're able to give, um, have those important discussions, and you learn so much from the organizations and along that line. So I appreciate your platform. Like, it, anytime I can, be able to speak, and it's just another way to get that information out there. So I appreciate you and your platform and allowing me to, have this time with you.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, and again, it's a learning experience. Like here, you have myeloma Valerie. Thanks for sharing, Vickie. I've learned a lot from tuning in. It's those little things, right? Um, just to know more, just to educate yourself. Life is about educating. Okay, you can't stay in one box thinking one way. You have to hear other people's experiences, what their lived experience has been, especially when it comes to chronic conditions. I know sometimes we get stuck with the textbook version of what things are, but everybody's situation is different. So that's not the way to think about it. um so Vickie, as we wrap up, how and where can viewers follow you or learn more about your advocacy?
Um, I'm on Facebook as far as, Vickie Wilkerson on Facebook. Um, of course, I'm here on Instagram, although I got to say I, kind of been letting that take a little back seat, but now that, I'm gonna ramp it up more. Um, um, I'm also on Twitter at Vickie Wilkers. It's leave off the on the last name of it. So Vickie Wilkers 12 on Twitter, or well, I guess currently X. It'll always be Twitter to me, but
I know.
um, and find me through people like you that, help to share with the different communities, because it's so important. Again, I just really appreciate it.
I want to thank you for giving me some of your time this early evening, and I want to applaud you for the work that you're doing, using your voice to share your story, and keep going, and hopefully this new treatment that you're on, hopefully it gets you to where you want to be and where you're comfortable in being. So I wish you all the very best, and you have a wonderful and blessed weekend.